Let's see how to fill up the long-term capital gains on sale of equity shares or equity-oriented mutual fund that are taxable as per 112A. Now, in order to find whether the mutual fund you sold was an equity-oriented mutual fund or not, the quick way to find out is to look at the transaction statement when you sold that mutual fund. In case the securities transaction tax was charged while you sold off the mutual fund, then in such a case, that mutual fund would be an equity-oriented mutual fund. This is because STT, that is the securities transaction tax, is charged only on equity-oriented mutual funds at the time of sale. Thus, you can figure it out from the transaction statement itself. Now, in this video, we'll be covering the equity shares or the equity-oriented mutual funds that were purchased on or before the 31st of January 2018 and sold during the financial year 2024-25. The profits would be calculated in two different parts. The first one being where the equity shares or equity-oriented mutual fund was sold before the 23rd of July 2024, and the second part would be where it is sold on or after the 23rd of July 2024. Now, the reason why we'll have to calculate it in two separate parts is because the tax rates have changed with effect from 23rd of July 2024 on the long-term capital gains of equity shares. Since the tax rates have changed, we'll have to calculate profits in two separate parts. For this, we'll be needing the following details: the ISIN code, the name of the share or unit, the number of shares or the unit, the sales price per unit, the fair value of the unit as on the 31st of January 2018, and the cost price per unit. The ISIN code for shares and mutual funds would be available on the contract notes or the transaction statement at the time of purchase of such shares or mutual fund. Further, the name of the share or the unit will get auto-populated, or you will have to get it selected from the drop-down available there. In addition to that, we'll also be required to disclose the number of shares, the sale price per unit, and the cost price per unit. One different thing available here is the fair value as on the 31st of January 2018. Please note, the manner of calculation of the fair value has been dealt with in a separate video. The link to that video is mentioned in the comments section. You can watch it from there. So, in this table, we'll be filling up the details of the equity shares or equity-oriented mutual funds that were purchased on or before the 31st of January 2018 and sold before the 23rd of July 2024. Let's quickly see what we have it in our example. Perfect. Now, we move on to the equity shares or equity-oriented mutual funds that were sold on or after the 23rd of July 2024. Now, one thing you can note here is the ISIN code mentioned in the first table and the second table are the same. The only difference being the date of their sale. In case it's sold before the 23rd of July 2024, it will be mentioned in the first table, and in case it's sold on or after the 23rd of July 2024, it will be mentioned in the second table. Now let's quickly open the income tax offline utility for return filing. Once you open the Excel-based offline utility, the first thing that you need to do is fill in the Part A of the general schedule, which is this one. It contains the personal details of the taxpayer, such as name, PAN number, contact details, bank details, as well as the option to choose from the old tax regime or the new tax regime. Once you fill in the Part A of the general schedule, you then need to move to the next schedule, which is Schedule 112A. Here it is. In this schedule, we'll be filling up the details of the long-term capital gain on sale of equity shares or mutual funds that are equity-oriented and on which the STT has been paid. So let's start filling up the details for the equity shares or mutual funds that have been purchased on or before the 31st of January 2018 and sold before the 23rd of July 2024. Let's first start filling up that. Now, before you begin, let me tell you, we'll have to fill in these details individually. That is, each of these items will have to be mentioned here separately. Or alternatively, you can also use a CSV input file where you can input the details and directly upload it here. So let's start filling up for the units that have been sold before the 23rd of July 2024. Now, once you fill all the details, it automatically calculates the long-term capital gain. Since the details of the first part have been already feeded, now let's move to the second part. That is where the equity shares or mutual funds have been sold on or after the 23rd of July 2024. Let's start filling up that. Here again, it automatically calculates the long-term capital gain with respect to equity shares and mutual funds. So, this is how you show the long-term capital gain in respect of equity shares or mutual funds on which STT has been paid and were acquired on or before the 31st of January 2018.